For nearly 70 years, the Ten Commandments has been a sacred text of cinema, a towering 4-hour testament to faith, freedom, and the sheer force of Hollywood ambition. It is a film that demands reverence for its majestic scale, its sweeping vision, and its immortal spectacle. But the miracles you saw on screen, the parting seas, the flaming pillars, were often far simpler than you imagined. And the story of its making is a complex tale of human compromise, ruthless ambition, and shocking deceit. Cecil B. DeMille's final grand vision was not just a retelling of the Bible. It was a carefully constructed epic built on political propaganda, whitewashed truths, and near-fatal human exhaustion. We are going to peel back the polished Technicolor veneer and expose the 20 deepest secrets that turned a religious saga into a controversial monument to American excess. We start not with a plague or a miracle, but with the very thing DeMille knew would sell tickets: forbidden, dangerous love. Number 1. The fictional love triangle was nearly incestuous. The entire dramatic tension of the film's first half hinges on the fiery rivalry between Moses and Ramses over the beautiful Princess Nefertiti. Her jealousy and betrayal drive Moses into exile and fuel the conflict for the rest of the epic. But here is the first shocking truth. This character and the entire love triangle she creates are pure Hollywood invention. Nefertiti is never once mentioned in the Book of Exodus. DeMille knew he couldn't hold audiences for 4 hours with only fire and brimstone. He needed steamy, forbidden romance. But the scandal goes darker. Historically, the pharaohs of that dynasty, including Ramses II, married within their immediate family for political and dynastic purity. If Nefertiti had existed in Ramses's court, she would have almost certainly been his sister or a close relative. DeMille's attempt to inject romance inadvertently created a scenario of near incest at the very heart of the biblical tale, a taboo subtext that remains the film's most disturbing fabrication. Number 2. Moses's wife was whitewashed for 1950s America. While DeMille was fabricating one romantic interest, he was radically censoring another. The Bible provides a striking detail about Moses's actual wife, Zipporah, the daughter of a Midianite priest. The Book of Numbers, chapter 12, verse 1, explicitly describes her as a Cushite woman, a term historically referring to dark-skinned people from the region of modern-day Sudan or Ethiopia. Moses's wife, therefore, was a black woman. Yet, when you look at the film, Zipporah is played by the glamorous white actress Yvonne DiCarlo. This was not an oversight. It was a painful, calculated decision. In 1950s America, with Jim Crow laws still enforced and widespread bans on the depiction of interracial romance in film, showing the prophet Moses married to a black woman would have been considered too controversial. To secure the widest possible release and avoid censorship, DeMille willingly whitewashed the biblical text, trading accuracy for dollars and sacrificing a powerful truth on the altar of Hollywood prejudice. Number 3. The eloquent voice was a Hollywood lie. The very essence of Charlton Heston's performance, the thing that cemented him as the perfect Moses, was his booming, resonant, all-powerful voice. We see him, the classical orator, effortlessly commanding Pharaoh and addressing the multitude. But once again, DeMille and the screenwriters defied scripture. When God calls him to his mission, the biblical Moses protests, stating, "I am not eloquent. I am slow of speech and of tongue," indicating a severe speech impediment or stammer. He required his brother, Aaron, to speak for him. Heston's powerful, confident voice was a complete lie, a necessary rewrite to deliver the flawless, unwavering hero the American audience expected. They eliminated Moses's most profound human vulnerability, robbing the character of his initial humility and turning him into a flawless, commanding, and utterly fictionalized action hero. Number 4. The orgy scene took 3 weeks and sparked desperate curses. The frenzied Golden Calf Festival, a scene dripping with sin and chaos, was pure cinematic hell for those who created it. To capture the sheer, exhausting madness of a multitude descending into pagan worship, DeMille demanded hundreds of cast and extras remain on set. The sequence was filmed for a brutal, agonizing period of 3 weeks straight under the relentless Egyptian sun. The exhaustion and mental strain were so profound that, according to Charlton Heston's own memoir, a female extra, pushed past her limit, screamed out the quote that became legendary on the set, "Who do I have to DMN well off to get out of this movie?" It was a bitter, profane plea that underscored the human cost of DeMille's unyielding artistic vision. The on-screen party was a celebration of flesh. The off-screen experience was a testament to human misery. Number 5. The director suffered a near-fatal heart attack. DeMille was 73 years old during the production, an age when most directors are long retired. But he insisted on personally directing the sprawling cast and crew from the most commanding vantage point. During the filming of the Exodus sequence, he was atop a terrifying, rickety-looking 40-meter, 130-foot iron ladder on the set. While observing the vast crowd, the stress and heat became too much. DeMille collapsed, suffering a massive, near-fatal heart attack, narrowly avoiding a plunge to his death in front of the horrified cast. Doctors ordered him to stop immediately. His reply? He reportedly claimed he would rather collapse on set than live in completion. And true to his word, he was back directing just 2 days later, his voice booming through the megaphone once more. Number 6. DeMille cued actors by firing a gun. The scale of the production was simply unprecedented. For the massive crowd shots, DeMille had to coordinate a staggering 14,000 human extras, along with 15,000 live animals, horses, camels, and goats. Communicating with this massive, multinational army in the noisy desert was impossible. His solution was extreme. While he used a megaphone for primary direction, DeMille resorted to an authoritarian and terrifying signal to start and stop scenes. He would actually fire a gun into the air. This stark, violent sound was the only way to get the attention of the colossal, unruly crowd, turning the film set into a temporary, quasi-military dictatorship where the director literally held the power of the trigger. Number 7. Yul Brynner's secret obsession to look powerful. The duel between Moses and Ramses was a battle between two titans, but off-screen, it was a battle of insecurity. Yul Brynner, who played Ramses, was acutely aware of the physical difference between himself and Charlton Heston, a much taller, naturally broader actor. Fearing he would look physically overshadowed, Brynner threw himself into a secret, brutal regimen of weightlifting and calisthenics. Crew members often spotted him doing intense pull-ups and lifting heavy weights right up until the camera started rolling. His intense, silent effort was a personal war to transform his physique, ensuring that the Pharaoh he played was not just intellectually powerful, but a physically imposing figure capable of standing toe-to-toe with Heston's bronze-bodied Moses. Number 8. The hailstorm was painted popcorn. The plague of hail that descends upon Egypt is one of the film's most terrifying spectacles. Yet, the material used was the most mundane item imaginable: popcorn. The challenge was simple. How do you drop thousands of pieces of hail on actors' heads without causing injury, and how do you quickly clean it up for the next take? The solution was a mixture of white popcorn kernels and chipped styrofoam, often spray-painted for texture and depth. This light, non-damaging material allowed the crew to dump massive quantities onto the actors and the elaborate sets. Furthermore, because it was popcorn, cleanup was simple. It could be swept up, gathered, and reused for subsequent takes, making it the most cost-effective and injury-free plague in cinematic history. Number 9. The parting of the Red Sea was gelatinous water. The moment Moses raises his staff and the sea parts is hailed as a masterwork of pre-CGI filmmaking. But there were no towering water effects or digital manipulations. The effect was achieved through a simple, ingenious trick of physics and camera work. The crew built 2 massive tanks. They filled the water with gelatin and thickeners to create a dense, viscous liquid that looked like heavy, chaotic seawater. They then released the water from the tanks into a specially constructed trough. The key was to film this release, the water flowing down and together. Then, the footage was played in reverse. The result was the illusion of water violently parting and standing up on 2 sides. It was a technical marvel that took over 6 months to rig and execute, all for a scene that lasts under 10 minutes. Number 10. A real human skull was hidden in the fog. The Plague of the Death Angel is perhaps the film's most chilling moment, as an eerie green mist silently slithers through the Egyptian homes, taking the lives of the firstborn. The sense of dread is palpable, but few realize the director used an insidious technique of subconscious horror. Hidden faintly within that green fog, almost impossible to discern on a first viewing, was the subliminal image of a real human skull. The human eye unconsciously registered its cold, skeletal outline. The result was a feeling of unease and terror that spread not from a clear picture, but from a vague, primal recognition of death. It was a chilling, masterful application of psychological horror in a supposed biblical epic. Number 11. Disney animators created God's power. For a film known for its live-action spectacle, some of its most divine miracles were actually created by artists known for cartoons. Paramount secretly hired top animators from the legendary Walt Disney Studios to contribute to the visual effects. These artists, who were experts in the craft of layering and creating magical realism from their work on projects like Fantasia, were responsible for the stunning, impossible moments. This included the majestic, hand-drawn effects for the fiery pillar that separated the armies and the intricate, glowing letters that appeared on the tablets, making it appear as if God's invisible hand was etching the law into stone. Number 12. The biblical plague that made people laugh. The biblical story features 10 plagues, but the film only depicts 9. The one missing was the plague of frogs. DeMille went to great lengths to film a massive, detailed scene for this plague, releasing hundreds of live frogs onto the palace floors and over the elaborate sets. However, in early test screenings, the result was disastrous. The audience didn't feel fear or divine wrath. They burst into laughter at the amphibians' clumsy, comical poses and chaotic hopping. DeMille was so stunned and embarrassed that he deemed the scene a farce and ordered the entire costly sequence to be cut and discarded, letting the 10th plague vanish forever from the film's final cut. Number 13. The escaped king cobra caused a real panic. When Moses' staff turns into a serpent, DeMille insisted on using a terrifying live king cobra to show genuine danger. During one take, the highly venomous snake broke free from its handler and darted straight toward the massive open camera equipment. The set instantly dissolved into chaotic hell. Extras screamed, props were thrown, and the crew scrambled to escape the deadly creature. It took nearly an hour to recapture the cobra and restore order. The incident confirmed the crew's deepest fears about the dangerous ambition of the production. Number 14. Moses' robe was an accidental coincidence. In the final scenes, Charlton Heston's Moses wears a distinct red, black, and white striped ceremonial robe. DeMille chose the colors simply because they popped vibrantly on the film's new Technicolor stock. Years later, religious scholars and archaeologists were stunned to realize that these were the exact ceremonial colors of the Levite priests, the tribe that Moses truly belonged to in the biblical narrative. It was a purely accidental coincidence that lent the film an unintended air of authentic, scholarly detail, blurring the line between cinematic myth and true history. Number 15. The voice of God was Moses, talking to himself. While we covered the technical trick earlier, the emotional impact is a deeper secret. When Moses kneels before the burning bush and hears the divine command, that voice was technically Charlton Heston's own, recorded and manipulated. This bold choice by Heston, who wasn't given screen credit for the voice, pushed the scene beyond ordinary limits. It turned the conversation into a spiritual experience where Moses seems to be hearing and conversing with a deeper power within himself. A truly modern psychological take on the prophet's call that shocked audiences when the secret was eventually revealed. Number 16. The film was a Cold War propaganda tool. The Ten Commandments was the most expensive film ever made at the time, but its success was rooted in politics as much as pageantry. Released at the height of the Cold War, it was deliberately positioned by DeMille in the studio as a moral weapon against godless communism. DeMille, a known conservative, used the film to frame the biblical law as the foundation of American freedom, implicitly contrasting it with the perceived atheism and suppression of the Soviet bloc. The film was not just religious entertainment, it was a powerful piece of cultural propaganda wrapped in an epic package. Number 17. The 4,000 tablets created a legal legacy. To promote the film, Paramount and DeMille spent vast sums erecting over 4,000 replica stone tablets of the Ten Commandments in public parks, courthouses, and government buildings across America. For DeMille, this was a statement, but these seemingly immovable stone slabs became the spark for decades of legal controversy, violating the principle of separation of church and state. Lawsuits regarding the tablets reached the U.S. Supreme Court as recently as 2005. A film promotion campaign unintentionally etched its name into American legal history, creating an enduring national debate about religion in the public square. Number 18. Ancient props appeared in Star Trek. Due to Paramount's strict and efficient prop storage, the treasures of ancient Egypt had a bizarre future. The elaborate silver goblets, intricately carved wine jars, and lavish golden censers that adorned Pharaoh's palace didn't vanish after filming. Decades later, they were dusted off and reused in episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Sharp-eyed audiences can spot 24th-century Starfleet astronauts drinking from the very same goblets used by Moses and Ramses. It's a remarkable, strange thread of Hollywood recycling that links a biblical epic to the vastness of the outer cosmos. Number 19. The film inspired a legendary Metallica song. The influence of the 1956 film reached into a genre that couldn't be more distant: heavy metal. In 1983, the members of the thrash metal band Metallica were watching the film when the eerie green mist of the Death Angel scene came on screen. Bass player Cliff Burton was struck by the image and shouted, "It's like creeping death." That phrase was immediately seized upon by the band and became the title and lyrical concept for their legendary 1984 track, Creeping Death. The film's terrifying divine wrath was perfectly translated into metal music's fiercest anthem. Number 20. A music legend was an uncredited drummer. Hidden among the thousands of frenzied extras in the Golden Calf Festival was a young man quietly beating a drum. He was entirely uncredited and nearly invisible to the camera. That 21-year-old was Herb Alpert, who would later become a music legend as the founder of the Tijuana Brass. Alpert went on to become one of the most successful instrumentalists in music history, accumulating 5 number-one hits and selling millions of records. His career quietly began as a tiny, anonymous, uncredited drummer in the most massive film epic of his era. For nearly 7 decades, the Ten Commandments has stood like a monument, grand, immovable, eternal. But when we look closer, we find not stone, but sand, shifting beneath the weight of myth, ego, and ambition. Every frame of DeMille's epic was built on faith. Faith in God, faith in cinema, and faith that audiences would believe in miracles, even when they were made of popcorn, paint, and gelatin. What endures is not just the film itself, but the paradox it represents: that Hollywood's greatest temple was erected not by saints, but by flawed mortals chasing immortality through art. So the next time you see Moses part the Red Sea, remember, behind that miracle stood 1,200 crew members, 2 gelatin tanks, a director with a bad heart, and a dream bigger than the desert itself. Because, in the end, the Ten Commandments wasn't just about divine law, it was about the law of cinema. Nothing is real until you make the world believe it is. The Ten Commandments is a study in magnificent duality, a soaring work of art built on a shaky foundation of spectacle and secrecy. For every parting of the sea, there was a bucket of gelatin. For every booming word of prophecy, there was a lie about a speech impediment. For every display of freedom, there was a political agenda rooted in the Cold War. It remains an essential part of cinematic history, yet its deepest secrets remind us that the line between Holy Scripture and a Hollywood script is surprisingly thin, and that the greatest story ever told often came with the highest human cost. What shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into the hidden truths of Hollywood's greatest epics.